Jim was a wacky, zany, and eclectic person. I mean, if you look around right now, these are most all of his books, and then there's boxes and boxes of more of his stuff. So he definitely collected a lot of stuff, and a lot of interesting stuff too. He was a magician. Ta-da! He was a musician. There's boxes of guitars that he made out of cigar boxes. He made a whole bunch of these, and they have like input too. I think actually, hold on, let me plug it into an amp and see if it still works. Yeah. Besides those interests, he was a genuine, caring, thoughtful person. He was just very sweet and fun to be around. When Jim died, I was 16 or 17. I'd come home from school, and my mom brought me into my room, and she said, "I need to talk to you." And I was like, "Oh boy, I'm in trouble. What did I do this time?" And then she didn't wait. She just said, "Jim killed himself." And it was, I went from thinking that I was in trouble and being defensive to just like, I felt like nothing for a second. Like I didn't know how to respond, and it took like an hour, and it took me going on Facebook and writing messages to him for me to like feel like something had happened. I knew Jim before he was taking any medication. Ever since I knew him, he was always obsessive, because of his disorder, OCD. So I think the underlying factors for that addiction were there. Oh, he was also obsessed with our dogs too. He would take care of them religiously, and he would think about them all the time. But he was walking our dog, and he fell, and he was injured, so he hurt his back, and that's how he was prescribed the medication. Before his injury, he was prescribed Xanax so he could go on planes. And so I knew Jim had Xanax, and I knew that he would get, tired and a little loopy when he was on them. It would never raise any flags when I would see him taking medication. This addiction that he had, especially when he started using opioids, wasn't like I see someone, I see needles all over the ground or in the bathroom, or, I see him conked out in a gutter. It all seemed very sterile, and it's really strange to think about too, is like how he could have been pretty much doing drugs a room over from me, and I wouldn't even know. Even if I saw him doing it, I wouldn't even know. And then that's the problem too, that opioids, after you start using them and you don't have them anymore, you go to other things. He tried to buy Bitcoin so that he could buy other drugs off the internet, so he could buy like morphine or heroin or something off the internet. He went from being a socially acceptable addict to being a non-socially acceptable addict, getting his drugs from the doctor's office versus getting his drugs from the dark web. It's just interesting where the line is. An appropriate addict who can still, wear a suit and go to work versus a junkie who's in the gutter. Like, where's the line really? It cost $1 to see The Strange Thing, and for the first time ever, this is going to be seen on camera. So I'm going to take the liberty to do this. So I think I'm going to carry the name on. So $1 to see The Strange Thing. Are you ready? Can't look at it for too long. This is so cool. Okay, so my mom and Jim would put on a performance called a Seance, and there's this old house in Ventura where we live. My mom would pretend to be a medium, and these people would tour through and like see this house where someone died. And Jim and my mom created like fake newspaper clippings and like had like Ouija board stuff happen. It's a really cool performance, and Jim and my mom did a lot of really cool things like that. They did seances and flea circuses and improv performances, and I'm so sorry to have someone like Jim be taken like that, because he was definitely a blessing on the world, definitely a big shining star. It's quite strange. So that's just one of the things that Jim had. He just had that. With addiction, your personality starts to change, so it felt like he was spiraling out of control. He seemed to be a very calm and rational person before, and he was, one of the smartest guys and coolest guys I'd ever known. And then that sort of kookiness and eclecticness of his personality started to fade, and he would become irritable or depressed. I didn't want to be around him. And I would separate myself from him or not talk to him when he was around the house, because I was, either scared to talk to him or I had other stuff going on. Like, the change sort of happened. It's like I didn't see it happen, and then all of a sudden he was gone. Like, not only this person I knew when I was a kid, this person who was like my dad, who was like my best friend, wasn't in there anymore, and then he was gone for real. So, the change happened without me really seeing it. Opioid addiction was part of the reason that Jim was asked to move out, but there were some other factors too. He was hard to get along with in that last year, pretty much, with my sister and my mom and myself and my older brother. And I remember this one time we got into an argument about something, and I walked away, and he threw a water bottle at me, and it missed and sailed into my room. And I was like, wow, what the hell? I kind of just felt like, oh, here it goes again. My parents are getting divorced again. It was hard to engage with his personal struggle. He had a spending addiction as well. He would go online and buy hundreds and hundreds of comic books or figures or magic gear, which we still have boxes and boxes of stuff that he didn't even open. I think the decision that my mom made to separate him from us was one of safety too, because he would get angry and he would get aggressive. He was not living with us, and that was for a multitude of reasons. I've never suffered from an addiction. Both my biological father and my stepfather have suffered from addictions, and one of them is still alive, and I think part of that is because of the willingness to accept resources and accept help. Jim wouldn't accept help, and he wouldn't go to therapy. He would skip therapy sessions, or he would refuse to go to rehab. So the willingness to accept help and to swallow your pride and to accept that you have a problem, that is the first step in conquering your addiction. And advice for someone who is in my situation, someone who has to watch someone they love suffer from addiction, it's, you have to be strong too, and don't feel like you're not the one suffering, because you're suffering too. So accept your suffering and offer help as best you can, but take care of yourself too. I mean, after suicide, it's hard to articulate your emotions. It's like such a wave of different emotions. And I felt guilty for a long time to say that I was relieved or that I was angry, right? Feeling anything other than sad, I felt ashamed. It was taking a toll on my mom. And I just really felt bad for my mom. And after his passing, feeling some sort of relief that he would no longer be putting a drain on her, at least for me personally, it felt a bit like a blessing, and I felt guilty to feel that. Maybe my mom felt it too. After his suicide, that's when things started to get a little easier, because with addiction, it's a whole train on the whole family. I remember hearing from my brother that he had confiscated a gun from Jim, and my first thought when I heard that was that, oh, is he going to kill us? And then later, after his suicide, I was like, oh, that's what it was for? I mean, he didn't use a gun to kill himself, but that's why he got a gun, or maybe that's why he had a gun nearby. So it was just every day there was something new, and not having to worry about it anymore was, not tragic, but it's like we could finally breathe. I feel like maybe I'm feeling a little unsatisfied and unconcluded because we haven't come to some grand conclusion about opioids or how to save the day, and that's sort of the problem about opioids, is that it's so big. It's a part of our culture, and I'm feeling like there's no simple answer to how to solve this. I wish things had gone differently, and I wish that Jim was able to be that person that I knew growing up. Even before his passing, it seemed like he was gone already. Even the annoying things, like him having to lock all the doors 5 times, and that we were always late, no matter where we were going. Even the little annoying things like that, like I would take those all back just to have my friend again, my dad.